Hi everybody, this is a summary of my videos on 9/11, the occult and Jesus. This is the final video that's going to summarize the evidence for this stuff. The uh, the spiritual conclusions are going to have to be dealt with in a separate video. But anyway, if you're not sure what I'm talking about or you want some more evidence, you want some more stuff to back up what I'm showing you in this video, go and watch my other videos that deal with this stuff, and it's covered there. So anyway, that being said, let's get started here. What got me first started on all of this stuff was the work of Michael Heiser in reversing Herman. Um, you're going to think that this is the most bizarre thing you've ever heard of before if you've never heard of it prior to this and haven't looked into it. But just for the sake of time, I've got to say, I know you're going to think it's crazy, but just take the time to investigate it anyway. And it actually is convincing, and this is legitimate scholarly stuff. Um, that is the idea that Jesus was born on the evening of September 11th, 3 BC, at about 7 p.m. Jerusalem time. Now, that would be within about an 80-minute time window. 7 p.m. Jerusalem time is 12 noon New York, and 2001 numerologically is a 3. So you've got a very close correlation, or a reversal, I guess, as Michael Heiser would put it. That tipped me off that there's really something just crazy spiritual going on with the 9/11 event. When I first saw this, this was the first thing that I saw in regards to all this 9/11 and occult stuff. Um, and it really kind of blew my mind. The second thing that I saw was this interview with James Perloff and Richie Allen, where James Perloff was talking about Danny Lewin. I'd never heard of him before. Now, if you want to know more about him, go watch my video on Danny Lewin, or watch this, listen to this interview. But, um, uh, but yeah, James Perloff is pretty much, before I did my video on Danny Lewin, James Perloff was the only guy that I could find anywhere online who was really dealing with Danny Lewin in any kind of a substantive way. And so hats off to James Perloff. Good job on that. So anyway, here's another weird thing. Basically, you've got the date of the crucifixion of Jesus according to Isaac Newton, no less. Uh, According to Isaac Newton, the date of the crucifixion of Jesus. You've got, according to Michael Heiser, the date of the birth of Jesus on 9/11. Uh, You've got both of these dates appearing on the cover of a Newsweek magazine in 1967 with David Rockefeller on the front, and he's talking about the construction of the World Trade Center. Now, that ties way too many weird things all together. When you get David Rockefeller, Jesus, and 9/11 or the World Trade Center all rolled into one on one magazine cover, that's freaky. And so that really got my attention. Uh, and then just looking at Aleister Crowley, as I looked into the occult, I kept coming across Crowley, and researching the occultic aspects of the flight numbers. There's a lot of information. Here's just you see his one of his quotes here about 11. Um, 11 was the number that kept showing up on Danny Lewin's watch and the passenger manifest and stuff, and his hijacker watch, no less. Um, 11 is, according to Crowley, is the number of the new eon. Crowley was very much into 11, all right? And then this one, Flight 77. This has just got way more stuff than I can summarize in one or two sentences. There's a lot here. And go back and look at that if you're not sure what I'm talking about. Then this one, 93, is basically how people who are Thelemites, or followers of Aleister Crowley's system of religion, Thelema, this is the way they sign their name. It's with a 93. So with 93, it's kind of like a signature of a Thelemite, a follower of Aleister Crowley. And then you get this one, Liber 175, on uniting oneself to a deity. This is talking about demonic possession or incarnation of a deity into a human body. Um, and there's not enough time to devote to this in any kind of convincing way. But if you're not sure what I'm talking about here, go back and watch the United 175 video, where I spent, and also the one on uh, American 77 is these two, American 77 and United 175, have to be kind of looked at together because there's some overlap between them. But anyway, go back and watch those two videos if you're not at all sure what I'm talking about. There's quite a lot there. Uh, Came across this video with Mark Passio talking about the idea that Flight 93 was actually destined for Building 7, and that because that didn't happen, 93 crashed in Pennsylvania instead, or somewhere. I don't know. I really don't know what happened to it. That the ritual failed at this point. So he's basically saying, 9/11 was a failed ritual. And that's significant because Mark Passio is an occultist, but he's got some very very convincing points about the numerological aspects of Flight 93. So anyway, one of the next things that I found was this movie on Vimeo about Ghostbusters and 9/11. I wouldn't have thought that there would have ever been any kind of connection between these two, but there's actually quite a lot. Here's a sampling of it. Look at this fire station here. All right, the Ghostbuster station. You see the S and 11, and then the on the bottom the XIX with the S through the 11. All right, what is that? September 11th. What is the XIX? Is that 11 and 9 in Roman numerals? I think it is. And if you watch this video all the way to the end, just remember the Roman numerals. Next time I mention the Romans, think of this. So anyway, and I think that you'll see what I'm talking about. All right. I stumbled across Jack Parsons about this time. We'll get back to the Ghostbusters movie in a minute, but I stumbled across Jack Parsons and his Babylon working ritual. Jack Parsons was a protege of Aleister Crowley, who wrote the book Moonchild. Babylon working was an attempt to actually perform the Moonchild ritual, and the Moonchild's idea came from the Enochian magic stuff, which I'll cover in a second. But basically, the idea is that through ritualistic sex magic, you incarnate an evil spirit into the body of a human baby, and that's in Moonchild. It's also in the movie Rosemary's Baby by I think Roman Polanski, and it's in Babylon Working. And so anyway, Enochian magic. I mentioned that just a second ago. This is where it really, really gets freaky. I came across Enochian magic, or the Enochian apocalypse working, with somebody talking about giving a presentation on the Babylon working, and I thought, what the heck is that? So I started looking into it, and wow, what a rabbit hole this is. Um, Here's the summary of it. All right, I'll let you read that, but basically, you got 49 gates. That's key. All right, I mean it's critically, no pun intended. I mean, one key point is you got 49 gates. They were given ritual keys to open 48 out of the gates, but not the 49th one. When you open up all of the gates, basically you trigger revelation complete with an antichrist and the spirits being broken out of prison. What spirits in prison? You have the angels that sinned in Genesis 6, who were locked in chains of gloomy darkness in 2 Peter, 1 Peter, and Jude, and they get broken out of prison in Revelation 9. That's the ones that Enochian angel is that the Enochian angels were talking about releasing. Because when these angels, these guys from Genesis 6 and Revelation 9 and stuff, they are kept out according to the Enochian angels. This is what the demons say anyway. They're kept out of this world by this series or system of 4 watchtowers and 49 gates that can only be opened from the inside, our side. And yeah, and the whole idea, the whole point of Enochian magic, if you look at it really objectively, not subjectively like a lot of occultists do, but actually objectively, and you take it at face value, all right, the whole point of it is to break these guys out of prison and to bring the Antichrist into the world. All right. Now, going back to Ghostbusters. All right. What you see here is the scene of I am the gatekeeper, I am the keymaster. All right. Sigourney Weaver is the Scarlet Woman. Here's the real Scarlet Woman on the upper left. That's Marjorie Cameron. Look at the way they're dressed. Look at the color of the dress. It's exactly the same thing. All right. I am the gatekeeper. I am the key master. These are Enochian magic terms. All right. What you see here is Enochian magic. All right. And then here you have the from the Ghostbusters thing. You have the camera angle where the spirits are coming up out of the fire station. The camera angle makes it look like they're coming from the World Trade Center. And you can check this out in more detail in my video that's devoted to this. But it's just a camera angle trick. All right. It appears that the spirits are being broken out of prison at ground zero. Now, where was this camera angle taken from? Where was the shooting location for this section of the movie? It was here. What is this place? This is top of the rock, which is at the Rockefeller Center. This is the Rockefeller Center, as in David Rockefeller. All right. When you look right over that wall where that little girl is, the street you're looking at is 49th Street, as in the 49 gates of Enochian magic. Yeah. All right. And then there's Prometheus, the statue of Prometheus at the Rockefeller Center. All right. And Prometheus was imprisoned by Zeus for bringing light to men, and he was put in prison, and then he was later released and busted out of there by somebody. I'll go into all that stuff later on, but that is really that this is a real serious indication of what they're trying to do. The link conceptually between Prometheus and this scene right here is huge. That, the 49 and Prometheus, that is really creepy. All right. This is also kind of creepy. I'll just let you pause it and read that for yourself. All right, here in Ghostbusters 2, we have a spirit coming in the video. You can see very clearly he comes out of the World Trade Center and he gets closer and he's got these red eyes and then he snatches a baby. Next time you see him with a baby, he's trying to incarnate himself, his own spirit, into the body of this human baby. So this is essentially a Babylon working moonchild type of thing going on here in Ghostbusters 2. Here's another weird thing as far as angels, as far as spirits coming through gates. All right, look at this. Here's the Washington Arch. Look at this spirit who's coming through the gate. All right, this is a real arch in New York City. Here it is. All right, but what did it look like? What would it have looked like when they filmed this movie if they had filmed it in the daylight? What would you have seen? You would have seen this. All right, from that camera angle, you would have seen the World Trade Center, just like that. All right. That, I have a very hard time believing that's an accident. All right. But it gets even more creepy than this. All right. Look at this. All right. Look at that book on top of George Washington's head. There's a close up, another close up. Exodus Acta Probat. What does that mean? The outcome justifies the deed. All right. What deed? What outcome? There we go. You're looking at it. All right. But there's even more to it than this. All right. That arch, that's the Arch of Titus. All right. This arch was done to commemorate, and this is in Rome, this was done to commemorate the destruction of the temple, among other things, and really the whole, just putting down the revolt in 70 AD in Jerusalem. All right. On this arch, you see this, what's in the upper right here, where they're taking the stuff out of the temple. You see the menorah. Okay, that's on the arch in Rome. All right. So this commemorates the destruction of the temple. And that's Herod's temple. All right. Herod's temple and Solomon's temple were both destroyed on the same calendar day of the Hebrew calendar, which was the 9th day of the 11th month, and the 11th month is Av. So they were both destroyed on a 9/11, both temples. And this is just a matter of history. You know, one of these dates actually appears in the Bible, if you want to go look it up. The Hebrew remembrance date for this is called Tisha B'Av, and you can read all about that. Now, here's one thing that I find is really, really very fascinating about this: to link the events of this arch with the events of this arch is this. All right, on the Masonic tracing board, I think is what they call it. All right, you've got the two towers of Jachin and Boaz. All right, now. These are biblical terms. This is actually, I think, in something like Second Chronicles or something. All right. These were the names of the two pillars in Solomon's temple. All right. And you see here on the picture on the left, the little short brown building. What was that? That was Building 7. What was the name of Building 7? The one that came down without being hit by a plane? The one that Flight 93 was supposed to hit? That was the Solomon Brothers building. So yeah, so that basically concludes my take on the evidence of this of all the occultic stuff. Now there is more detail that I fleshed out in some other videos, but this is basically an overview of it. So in my next video, I'm going to cover how should we look at this spiritually, because this is a huge instance of spiritual warfare, and we're all a part of it. You know, you were born on a spiritual battlefield, whether you realize it or wanted to be or not. And so, you know, based on everything we see here, how does this affect us, and where should we go from here? How should we think about these things? And that's all I've got time for in this video. Hope you enjoyed it and come back for some others. Thanks. Bye bye.